Welcome to the third stop on your virtual tour. Here we're looking at different planting dates, and what we did here is we have a number of seed treatments and we have a couple of soybean varieties, and we planted them at 6 different planting dates starting March 7th. The second one was in beginning of April, and then we basically planted every 2 weeks with the exception of May when we couldn't get in the field for several weeks, and our last planting date was on June 18th. So we have a really wide range of planting dates, and we're looking at that interaction between varieties, seed treatments, and timing of planting. Now we've repeated this planting date study over the past several years, and we've planted as early as we can and planted every couple weeks. The last 2 years we've taken data on when the soybeans begin flowering, so it should be no surprise that if we plant earlier, they're going to have much more time to grow before they flower. So we planted on March 7th this year, and it was over 90 days until those beans started to flower. Now when we plant, you look at the tail end of that graph, when we plant on June 18th, it was only about a month. So obviously the more time they have to grow vegetatively before they start to flower, the better yield potential we're going to have. Taking this concept a little bit further, when we consider how much the plants have grown by the time they start to flower or by midsummer, we can measure nodes. Now nodes are the most important factor when it comes to determining what the final yield of a field is going to be. The more nodes you have, the more yield potential you have. We went out on July 10th the last couple years and we counted nodes based on the planting date, and we had the highest number of nodes from our March 7th planting this year. We had 15 nodes when we counted on July 10th. Now if we consider the other end of the spectrum, our June 18th planting date, we only had 3 nodes, and you can see it's a fairly linear progression of more nodes as we plant earlier. And this is not surprising. University data confirms that nodes are pretty much developed regardless of weather conditions. It's more a factor of time. So if we plant earlier, we're going to have more nodes and therefore more yield potential. We don't have yield data from this year, obviously, but if we look at 2018 and 2019 yield data, we can see pretty much what we expect, where the early planting dates give us the best chance to receive maximum yield, and then it tails off as we get into June. This is a short drone video that I shot a couple of weeks ago, and it really highlights the big differences between the treated and the untreated seeds planted March 7th. So obviously most growers aren't going to plant beans in March, but this really shows how important seed treatments are in early planting. And this also helps explain why we've been able to get improved yields over the past several seasons by planting earlier, because seed treatments facilitate that. They allow us to plant into conditions that would not have been advisable to plant into in the past with untreated beans.